Hey guys, what's happening? So we're back for more Philip K. Johnson's Hulk series. And man, it's getting crazy, cause now we're shown another fractured son who's been mentioned a number of times by the eldest. And as it turns out, he's looking very familiar. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so coming back, we pick up in Vegas, where at this time we know Bruce and the Hulk are making their way here in hopes of saving Charlie. But as they make their way closer, we discover that they're being watched by the eldest, who sees them approaching as she looks into the sanguine pool. So to her, the key to freeing the Mother of Horrors is on its way. And she goes on to explain what else she saw to the creature that was eating Charlie's dad in issue 1, since it's not allowed to look into the pool, because the pool would do it harm. But since it was curious, the eldest goes on to explain. When she looked inside, she saw the fractured son, the one this world calls the Hulk. And she goes on to describe how she was able to see the Hulk heading north across the desert to make his way there with Charlie to save her. And the eldest believes that the Hulk's care for this child is going to be his undoing, and that undoing will be salvation for the eldest. And this takes her into telling a story about another fractured son from thousands of years past, who crossed another desert to put himself in her path. So the eldest continues this story, which takes place 3,600 years ago in Assyria, where this same man was making his way through the desert in hopes of reaching the fallen city of Nineveh. But during his search, he came across others who appeared to be dead, who spoke to him saying glory to the child God. And at first, the traveler, he didn't think much of it, until these bodies kept talking and telling him the same thing, which now has him wondering if the desert has driven him to madness. But these different bodies tell him more or less that he's on the right track, with them saying things like, on the road to the fallen city, all things praise the child God, as they go on to praise the child God. But when one of them tells the traveler to pray to her or be damned, the traveler says, I pray to the God who answers, and so to none. And the main reason why is because what this man is looking for, no one has been able to give him. But as he continues on his way, he hears screams from a nearby cave, so he goes to take a closer look, only to find these huge monsters dragging a family outside of it, as the creatures talk about taking this family to the child God. And it isn't long before one of these creatures sees the traveler, and he's like, oh, another one. But in response, the traveler just looks at this guy. And mind you, it's the biggest monster here. But the traveler just looks at him, and he says it seems the stories were false. So the big dude's like, what stories? So the traveler explains, as he begins to Hulk out. And he goes on to say, 2 moons ago, I did a service for an old woman learned in magic. She offered me a boon in return. I told her, I have fought many wars and been cheated by death every time. Long have I sought a place to die and at last find peace. She said, if it's death you seek, find you the fallen city of Nineveh, a kingdom overthrown where monsters dwell, led by the first and greatest of their kind, where mortal men live like beasts, hunted and chained. Here, she said, here you will surely find death. But I see now the old woman was false. Though monsters do dwell here, and mortal men live in torment, nothing do I see with the strength to kill me. And he wasn't playing when he said that, because from here he just tears these guys to pieces. It's not even close. But I also gotta say, as soon as this traveler hulked out, this Hulk had me thinking like, man, this looks a lot like the Hulk Tammuz turned into back when we covered Time of Monsters, which took place in 9500 BCE, which is much further back than the story we're being told now. But the funny thing is, when he hulks out and we see who it is, we're kind of given this suspenseful build-up where we gotta wait to hear his name. Because we even get a moment here where one of these monsters is just like, mercy brother, we knew not that you were, and then scrunch, he's killed. To where just after that, the biggest monster comes after him, and it's pretty much the same thing. He's like, I know who you are, but he doesn't get to say much more after that, because seconds into this fight, he split into 2. And you can tell the dude knew it was a wrap for him already, because some of his last words were, our eldest will avenge us. So yeah, he knew this was a fight that he wasn't walking away from. And just after tearing these monsters to pieces, the traveler sees the family that he saved over off to the side. So he goes to talk to them in the cave that they were just pulled out of, which as it turns out is where they have to live now. So next the traveler asked what happened here. And the father tells the traveler they came, and now Nineveh's cursed. There's little else to tell. It is filled with all manner of beasts and foul things, and the child god they follow. They swept into the city at night, killed the king and all his soldiers. Each night, more gather, and come morning, their numbers are greater. Someday they will overrun all the world. I only pray it happens after the time of my children. And after that, the wife comes in explaining how the child god is not an actual child, but instead it just wears the skin of a young girl cause that amuses it. And after that, she's about to say that thing is as much of a monster as you. But her husband just grabs her like, come on baby, don't be out here starting fights that I can't finish. So he cleans it up and he says those things are as much of a monster as those others. But just before the traveler continues to make his way to the fallen city, the father tells him, I know who you are. You are Enkidu, which is really interesting because I don't think we've heard him called by that name before. But just from the looks of things, it's a lot of stuff here that's lining up. Because when Immortal Hulk Time of Monsters ended back in 9500 BCE, Tammuz was more or less just wandering after that. So to me, I think it's possible that over those thousands and thousands of years, he could have just been given this name. There might even be a version of a story where it's said that he was sent to meet Gilgamesh, because even in Time of Monsters, it was said that he was sent by the gods to save his people. So over the course of thousands upon thousands of years, it's possible that people know of his story, likely by way of the tale of Gilgamesh, which is like the oldest story known to man. So for this traveler to say things like, I fought in many wars and been cheated by death every time, again, it just lines up with what we've seen so far. So before he goes, he tells this family, leave this place. Whatever happens tomorrow, you will not be safe. And following this, we head over to the child god, who, just to be clear, is also the eldest. They're the same person. And when we do, she's met by the arrival of another one of her monsters. And this dude, he's in bad shape. He's disfigured like crazy, bleeding all the way up the stairs. Like, you can tell this dude's been smashed recently. But he comes here bringing a message to the eldest, telling her, we found him. And at the time, the eldest asked how he came by these wounds. So he told her, there was a guy who traveled in the guise of an old beggar, but he possesses great strength. His flesh drew power from an emerald green flame. Eldest, it was the light of the green door. But as soon as she gets this message, she just eliminates this dude on the spot. And one of the guards nearby, who also heard, he ends up asking the eldest, if this is true, could it be the one below all himself, walking the earth, who's come here to punish them? So she just tells him, the one below all, he howls through many mouths, he breaks with many hands, but he's not one to leave the below place, walk the earth, and physically do any of the breaking himself. So the eldest tells him, for the time being, the one below all doesn't know what they're doing. But if this message is true, then the one below all has been kindled in the flesh of another. Then this could mean that they will soon have the power to undo what was done. Which for the eldest, this would mean that they would have the power to free the mother of horrors. So going forward, this sets us up to learn more about how exactly this went down, because we pretty much know how this older story ends, for the most part. Because in the present day, the eldest is still trying to make this happen. And according to what the eldest said, the Hulk's not going to fare much better than the previous fractured son, who from what it sounds like, he didn't get a happy ending either. Because I'm pretty sure that was his skull we saw in Immortal Hulk issue 50. So yeah, going forward, things are about to get crazy. Because not only are we getting more of the proper history, instead of either seeing the eldest refer to it, or looking at some cryptic cave paintings underground, but for a few issues, we're going to get to see how some of this stuff actually played out. And I like how it's leaning into what we got from Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk, because prior to this series, it just felt like a lot of that stuff was swept under the rug. So it's nice to see Philip K. Johnson not only go back to it, but also build on top of it, while adding so much to the story at the same time. So I'm excited to see more. Let me know what you guys think. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And feel free to drop your theories down there too. Or just go off about what you want to see happen next. Either one's fine with me because it's fun to talk about. But that'll do it for this one, guys. And then I'll catch you on the next one. Alright, later.